sing it one and all. Join in the chorus, North Melbourne's on the ball. Good old North Melbourne, they're champions, you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me.
Welcome back, Shimboners. On today's pod, we'll be reviewing last night's game against the Dogs. A game we went in with high expectations, with a few of the stars of the Doggies out. It was a good effort, but ultimately we fall short, with only ourselves to blame. Here to break it all down, give some answers, and provide some analysis, the Big Chief. Chieftain, welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling tired because I couldn't sleep last night. It was so frustrating that we let that one slip. Like you said, we played well enough to win. I think we played better than them until we got to the forward half. We've seen that movie before, haven't we? And I've almost pulled my hair out. I played with my hair more than Sylv, just in frustration, pulling at my hair when we had missed goals or fumbled balls. And it's very frustrating because it was one we let slip. We should have won it. We should be sitting firmly in the 8.
Yeah, and it's just... it's not in my DNA, but you times like these where you sort of think, if I was a fair weather supporter, it wouldn't keep me up all night, because I was much the same. So disappointed that I couldn't sleep. Broken sleep, but we're up here. We're going to try not to be too negative, but also, you know, we had the opportunities to win that game. And my biggest takeaway from yesterday is that we're our own worst enemy. I mean, we dominated clearance. We were well ahead in contested possession, tackling. And once again, we're our own worst enemy, as I mentioned, with our kicking inside 50 and just overall poor disposal at crucial times. What's your biggest takeaway from yesterday's clash?
Simple. A bit of a Dennis Paganism. Bad kicking's bad football. And, yeah, we can point the finger at a few players, just not good enough. When we had the opportunity to put some scoreboard pressure on, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Except for one man. They kicked 5 straight.
Well, that's the biggest thing, I suppose. There was lots of noise about he and Jai both facing fitness tests and 50-50 to play. Both played, and thank God Sylv did, because he was about the only one who had his kicking boots on yesterday.
Well, he kept us in it. If he didn't kick 5 straight, we lose by 40 plus. What's in the rundown for the day?
Yeah, so we're going to go through our match notes. We've got the Basti back, biggest award in all of football. We're going to go over, there's a list of questions as well, talk about potential team changes for next week and some injury news as well. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the team news. Obviously, Thursday night we saw the team drop, Jacob Constanti named to make his debut. So we'll give our thoughts on the debutants. We'll start with Jacob, a special K, as I call him.
Yeah. Kano
2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2.0 sounds better.
I thought he was really impressive yesterday. His forward pressure was something that has been a glaring hole in our football the last couple of years, and his repeat efforts were really good. Diving to put pressure on and just affecting that kick, and he sort of set the tone. After the first sort of 10 minutes, we had no forward pressure, but he was one who brought it, and I was a big fan of his game, and yeah, he needs a solid run at it for me.
Yeah, he'll definitely play next week, and yeah, just manic pressure, and you know that I demand that. That's what I look at. So
and he's the sort of little shit, you know, putting pressure on that Clarko loves.
Yeah, and Clarko mentioned him in his presser, so yes, he's in there for 3 or 4 weeks at least, I'd say.
Yeah, so a great.
And he did well.
First out. I tell you what, as if I wasn't already on edge enough after the performance. Any danger of putting your phone on silent? My God, every time I have to tell you when we come on this pod. Oh, Jesus, not the day.
No, it's not the day to poke the big Baz Bear.
No, there's not. But another really, really positive was Finn O'Sullivan and the way he equipped himself to AFL football. Looked natural straight away. Played more that half-back role that we saw in the second half against the Eagles, and somewhere where I wanted to see him play, to take a little bit of the pressure off. Caleb Daniel was our sole good user from the half-back line. How did you think Fossil went in game 1?
Yeah, I thought he was good. He had some good moments, and he'd have some quieter moments, but all in all, a very good effort. And yeah, you called him half-back from about December last year, so well done to you.
Well, I was a big fan. You know, these high draft picks, they come in, they've got all the skill and all the the ability. But the thing that impressed me the most with him yesterday was his willingness to go back and fill the hole in front of a Darcy or a Norton and put his body on the line. And particularly a couple of times he went back and just sort of got that half hand in when a Norton or a Darcy had gotten in front of Comben or Core. So, yeah, I was a big fan of his game. I mean, he only had about the 16 disposals, but he didn't make many mistakes by foot either, and didn't panic. Like, there's a couple of times he'd get the handball on that sort of wing close to the boundary, and you could dump kick there, as we saw, other players do. But he just takes that extra second and finds a release handball or a smart little kick than just panicking. So that's a big tick for me. His calmness in the situation, and something we've been lucky with in our high draft picks with obviously Sheasel and McKercher as well. So, yeah, big tick on debut for Foss.
Yes, and I'd just like to mention, those who haven't watched it, who may have been at the game, although everyone's got a phone to watch it on, you've got to watch Schwatter give him his jumper. That was clear best on ground for me yesterday. Absolutely fantastic from Wayne Schwass, one of my all-time favourites, and still got the passion of the shin boner. And Troy Makepeace had a tough task coming on after him, which he admitted, but well done, Troy. On Troy, should have been an All-Australian as a back pocket lockdown defender. I remember back in his prime, he was the best in it, but that's when they, had to get Nathan Buckley on the back pocket or some other midfielder.
Have 18 mids in the team.
Yeah, so he was very underrated, Troy. But Schwass, as he said, he gave out his CV, didn't he? A bit of me.
Yeah, I like that.
A bit of big chief operator
Ah,
about
he's
him.
pushing his claim for being the swagger man.
Yeah, oh, right. Yeah, so he could be both.
Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, a really big tick to both our debutants yesterday. Really impressed with how they went, and they've got no issues keeping that spot in the side.
Right, now while we're on the same page, what about the three club debutants? The senior experience we brought in to improve our team. How did you see their games?
I was really, really impressed with the game of Jack Darling. I mean, low stats, but he had the roll on Rory Lobb and nullified him. Lobb barely took an intercept mark, and
A lot of body work on Lobb. He was good.
And he had those giant shoulders just holding him back, and poor Lobb's ribs hit big JD's head, hit the melon and winded him too. But yeah, a really strong mark in the goal square too at an important time as well. So I thought he hit up well. A couple of fumbles, but he wasn't alone there under the sweat box that was under the lid. So at Marvel, so really impressed with his first outing. What were your thoughts on JD's game?
Yeah, I thought he was solid. Yeah, a couple of costly fumbles. First quarter, I think he dropped a mark you'd like to think someone of his experience would take, but it has sort of been in his DNA at West Coast to drop a couple of odd marks. And then he had one on the wing.
A bit negative.
Oh, no, well, I said good, but you've got to point out the areas of improvement, and that's an area of improvement. And then he dropped a handball receive on the wing when we were out and just had a little bobble.
Well, I'm counteracting a negativity. What he did that I really liked, he took a mark on the wing and just turned and went. And it ended up in a goal because the forwards had space. So rather than pushing back and taking forever like some of our players do, he just turned and went, backed himself that he could brush off a bit of a tackle with those gigantic shoulders.
Yep.
And I thought...
And Silver read it well, because we're outnumbered in the forward line, and normally a rush kick will go to the spare, but Silver read it best, and then finished from 45 plus.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy with his game. I mean, we saw the flow-on effect of what he did. I mean, Cam Zerha was everywhere. Unfortunately, couldn't finish the way he would have liked to, but the way he was able to push up the ground and get involved in the chain and be an option to hit that little 45 was impressive, and that's the flow-on effect from Jack Darling. So big tick for him for mine.
Yeah, well, I thought Darling was good. Don't get me wrong, but there were a couple of little areas of improvement. Daniel.
Yeah, I thought he was serviceable. He didn't have the same impact as he had in the practice games. I mean, he had a shank early.
Cost the first goal when we'd had all the play, and he's inboard kick on the outside 50 on the half-back flank and just turned it over, goal.
I mean, he was pretty safe with his boys, but he didn't have any sort of game-changing use.
No,
he's pretty safe long down the line or just hit that little one into the pocket. I thought he was pretty good defensively. He had a couple of one-on-ones which he did really well.
He was very good defensively for what we probably expect of the little man. I think that was actually his best thing, his defensive work. And he has played there his whole career, but he's always been the user out of defence. But he's an upgrade on McKercher in just one-on-one defence.
And Fisher for that.
Oh God, I've forgotten about Fisher. Sorry.
But yeah, I was pretty happy with his game. What were your thoughts on him and Parker? I mean, you gave most of your thoughts on Daniel. Any others before we?
Well, Daniel, there wasn't enough attacking good use out of now whether that was how the doggy set up or his shocking turnover that cost the first goal maybe went into his shell a bit, but we got him there for his ball use, and it wasn't electric enough for mine, but he was serviceable. And Parker, well, he was sort of missing early, but then he racked it up late, didn't he? It was interesting. He started the first centre bounce.
I could not believe that.
No, well, yes, interesting. And LDU, our most dynamic midfielder, started forward. So they were trying to catch him out. I mean, we won the clearances, but it was interesting. But Parker worked his way into the game and was serviceable.
He had a couple of good moments. I mean, I thought he played pretty well, but he had just those moments where he takes a mark in the corridor and just gives it straight away.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
it's
was really
just
good.
that experience from him that was really important, and especially when we had the momentum, rather than taking 5 to get back off the mark, and he just gave it and it kept that momentum flowing through to a McKercher or a Daniel or a Shees or whoever was coming through. So, yeah. Pretty good game from him as well.
Yeah, I'd agree. It was probably better than serviceable, but yeah, it wasn't best on groundish.
No. One more point before we move to our match notes. Darcy Tucker playing his 150th game. Interesting call to put him as the sub. I suppose the thinking there is that he's pretty versatile. Like he can play half back, he can play wing.
Yeah.
He could even play half forward if needed. So that might have been the thought, but
I only like him at half-back, to be fair. I don't think he brings enough offence, dynamic play to play wing or half-forward unless he was an absolute lockdown half-forward.
Yeah, I think you need someone with a little bit more toe as your sub or a bit more game-changing than just a solid C-grade player.
Yes, solid citizen. Not enough dynamic play for me.
But congratulations on the 150 games for him. Right, let's get into the match notes. So the first quarter, the Bulldogs kicked 5 goals, 3. We kicked 1 goal, 4. We dominated the clearance early. I think we'd almost doubled them in clearances, and Sherry was on top. The mids were on top. But once again, it's just wasteful use inside 50. I mean, and we're not even going to single players out because it was all of them. I mean, Simpkin kicked the ground, rolled in. Powell had some shockers. Wilfield was probably the only mid who didn't have any shockers, but he just couldn't get enough of the pill. LDU had some poor moments. The midfield, although domination, we couldn't take advantage of it just through simple skill failures.
Yeah, and what did we kick? 1-4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think your man Cam kicked a couple of points. Who else kicked points? I can't remember. But just wasteful because we did dominate the clearance, but then they absolutely torched us on transition, whole of ground transition, just the 40-metre kick to a leading player, chest mark, turn, do it again until they got it in their 50. And they weren't really bombing it in their 50 either. They were looking for lead-ups. They got Darcy a couple of times. But it was just superior ball use by them.
And there's just not enough pressure on the ball either.
No, we're letting them lead up. So lead up mark, stand on the mark, no pressure on the user. The user was good enough to hit the next one.
No, but even when we had it inside 50, and just in general play, they got it out too easily. And we left the corridor wide open as well.
Yes, which we did fix in the second quarter. But, yeah, it probably cost us a game that first quarter. I mean, imagine being a player where we're dominating where we want to dominate, but then they just transition it too easily up the other ground, kick goal.
Well, it absolutely cost us the game because we won the rest of the game from there on in. But that slow start and the inability to convert when we had the momentum absolutely crucified us. And there was a moment in that first quarter where I straight up spewed Terry Wallace. What was I saying on the pod last week? You can't fall asleep when Bailey Dale is within range as a half forward pocket. And of course, someone took a mark, can't remember who, 50 out. And there's Dale in a ton of space, rolls around, and he's such a great player that he's never missing that. And it happened again later in the game. And Clarko, you're going to have to get the boys to listen to the pod, I think. Because Blind Freddie could say it was coming.
Well, you mentioned it twice last week, and as David King would say, don't get beaten by what you know. And we knew he was going to do it, and he did it twice.
And he took the PI55 for them. He was brilliant for them. And for it to happen once and then happen again later in the game, like that's just a coach killer.
Yeah.
Tristan Sherry won the battle against English for the day, but it was well pointed out on commentary that when we had that extra mid at the stoppage in Tom Powell, he was trying to grab it out of the ruck too much. He had to hit it down to one of our mids to give that quick handball and use advantage of our numbers game. So to Big X's credit, he did change that after the first quarter.
He did.
But that sort of hurt us early.
Had a couple of really good hit-outs too, hit plays on the move. And I thought he was good. It wasn't his best game, but he's carried on his form from last year. Yeah, and he did a massive crunching tackle, which got the commentators up and about early in the first. Might have been on Richards. I can't remember who it was exactly, but he grounded him into the ground. He turned him into a bit of mince.
Yeah, and I think that got the group going a bit because we hadn't had a lot of, hot tackling pressure, and he hit that one, and then the pressure sort of started to come as well. So, he's definitely a leader in that aspect. But, you're right. It wasn't his best game, wasn't dominating, but he definitely got the points on English and nullified his impact as well.
Against an All-Australian quality ruckman, so he wasn't up against second-rate ruckman.
Yeah, and his tap work dramatically better than last year, I thought. Like, that's something he's obviously been working on over the summer because it was really good, and he was giving first use to our mids, and I mean, that's the frustrating thing. Like, we dominated that part of the game for 90% of the game until probably the last quarter. So we were killing them in clearance, killing them in contested possession, but just getting let down by ball use, which is a very familiar story for North fans.
Yes, and it starts with the ruckman. So we were getting the in-close clearances, but the post-clearance wasn't up to standard.
And Jai had some really good Jai steps as well, but just let down by some poor use from him. But you can see it, like he's back to his best form. He's just got to tidy up that ball use because his ability to move in traffic and get the ball wasn't the issue. It was how he was using it. So
yeah, he had a couple of poor uses, but I think you're being a bit harsh on him.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I think a bit like me on Darling. Point out a couple of negatives. I think overall his ball use was better than last year, but he had a couple of bad ones.
One last point on the first quarter. And you could really apply this to the whole game. Too often on the wing, we'd be drawn. You'd have 2 or 3 players go to the ball carrier, not back their teammates. The doggies, on the other hand, they'd back their teammates in, hold their width. That handball, which we know they're so good at, would go over the top, bang, bang, and then they're streaming into our defensive half. And it really puts the back line under immense pressure.
Yeah, we banged on about this last year. Bees to the honeypot. You've got to trust your teammate, have faith in your teammate that he'll put the tackle on, he'll put the pressure on, and hold your width. And too often it happened. And is that an experience thing? Well, we brought experienced players in. So, yeah, I remember one. We had about 3 go at the tackler and just, quick handball / throw because you're allowed to throw it pretty much now. So they can release it quickly before the tackle gets there, and then they're just out running. And good luck being a defender when there's 3 streaming through the wing.
Yeah, it's something that we've got to sort of identify. I'm sure it already has been, but it needs to be fixed ASAP because it's just too easy.
There's a lack of communication. There's just a panic, excitement of the game, just wanting to impact. And, I'll get the tackle. I'll do the big crunching tackle. And, you got 3 going at the ball carrier.
So we'll turn our attention to the second quarter unless you've got anything else for the first.
No, I've got lots of notes, but I must have had that doctor writing them for me again because I can't read them.
As long as you're not giving out any injury diagnosis, we should be fine. The second quarter, really great effort, and that was sort of the thing at quarter time. You know, it was that sort of 24-point margin. You think, oh dear, you know, we've seen this in the past where, you know, the group can sort of be a bit demoralised, but we fought our way back. The Doggies kicked 2-2, we kicked 5 goals 3. Jai had a really classy finish on his left foot through the pack, and a lovely finish. Jack Darling, great work on lob as well to protect Suv leading up at the ball, just to nullify a lob floating in front and taking a intercept mark. Some more positives. Finn O'Sullivan, really tough. And I thought Dermy was a bit harsh on him in that first quarter, saying he sort of shirked the contest. I think he just got a bit lost more than anything. I don't think it was anything to do with toughness.
No, I don't.
Dermy's commentary, horrendous.
Yep.
Matt Hill, big tick. Will Phil had a fantastic effort on our half back line or half forward line, I can't remember, but it was near the boundary. He was 4-on-1.
Yeah, it was our half back line because they should have brought the ball straight back in. 4-on-1. You keep going.
No, it was really impressive and a great shin boner moment just to not be beaten and get that result of the boundary throw in.
Yeah. A draw was a big win in that situation. So well done, Will Phil.
Yeah, really good effort. Some negatives. Charlie Comben, he had a shocker yesterday and he gave away a free kick where it shouldn't have been a free, right? He landed on the player's legs and they've called it for in the back, and that was really disappointing. But it's an interesting one for Chom because he did some really bad things, but then you look and Darcy's only kicked 1 goal.
Yeah,
so it's a hard one to read. He had a couple of moments where he floated in front of the packs and just spoiled, and he just looked really rattled out there.
Yeah, well, the only time they kicked it really long into the forward line was when he was 1-on-1 with Darcy. So it's hard to intercept then when you're playing on their key, who's a lot bigger and very talented as well. Yeah. And all the rest were sort of low 40-metre darts, weren't they?
Well, we were saying...
So he couldn't get his intercept going, even if probably Darcy had gone into the ruck. They were just lowering their eyes really well, not bombing it. And I think by the end of the game, he was probably a bit injured and, more importantly, low on confidence.
And we were saying that when O'Donnell got subbed off, that would be the perfect time to swing Chom forward. But the issue with playing against the Doggies is there's no one that can match up airily with Sam Darcy except Chom.
Yeah, that's right. The other key position backs are 195, 193, so they're giving away way too much height. If it was probably any other team, we could have thrown Chom forward and tried to stretch their defence.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be. But he did. Last time Darcy kicked 7 on us, and this time he kicked 1. He played his role, took a few good marks higher up the ground. But I think Chom did well on him, but not well for the game.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. Then we turn to the third quarter. The Doggies kicked 4-2. We kicked 4-5, so inaccurate again. And there was Bailey Dale again. That was my first note. It just drove me nuts. But I want to shine some light on some positives because although we are frustrated, it was a 16-point loss and we would have seen in past years that be 40-50. And they still had a lot of great players out there, the Dogs. They've got really good depth.
Well, it was a 100-point turnaround from last time we played them, roughly, wasn't it? They beat us by 100 and something last time. They beat us by 16. And all the stats show that we're ahead in most stats except the only one that counts on the scoreboard.
Constanti's forward pressure in that third quarter was immense. His follow-up 1, 2, 3 efforts, and that's what we love to see. Hansen Jr. was fantastic that quarter. He really lowered his eyes, kicking inside 50, hit up Zerha a couple of times, and he just doesn't panic. He looks really good. He last year we saw flashes and he was a bit fumbly. That's out of his game. Well, at least for yesterday it was.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's taken that step to be an AFL footballer.
Yeah, he was a good AFL footballer. So he looked good. He looked comfortable. He was on the wing. I like his use of space. He was clean under pressure when he had to be, which you wouldn't think would be his one would. But yeah, and I think all our wingers sort of had moments of being, they'd have a 5-minute hot period, then they'd go missing. But whether that was just a rotation, which you can't pick up unless you're at the ground, who knows? Yeah. But he certainly had his moments and will definitely hold his spot.
Oh yeah, I was really impressed with his game yesterday, and but all the wingers really were pretty pretty good. Colby had a shocking moment going back, and he just had to bodyline the ball.
Just had a market on his chest, really, but it wasn't the best kick. The only little out was, I can't remember who kicked it to him, but they gave a little bit too much hang time, which gave Colby, just put him under a little bit of pressure. But at the end of the day, it was a chest mark he should have taken.
Yeah. And I can't remember if it was the third or fourth quarter, but when Comben came in and spoiled, and when he should have taken the mark about 10 metres out, and it ended up with the doggies goal, that absolutely killed our momentum.
Yeah, lack of confidence,
Yeah.
I think. And at the time watching it, I thought, could he only get one hand to it? But I've watched it's on the highlights package, which all they show is goals, which really annoys me because what are the defenders there for? Just to stand on the mark. You can show some good defensive product, AFL. Anyway, he could have got both Mitch Stewart and taken the intercept mark that he's there to do.
Right, I want to try and not get too negative. So, out of the defenders, I thought Griffin Logue played a really good game. And, of course, now he's injured because the poor bloke just cannot get a run at it. It went off late with a hamstring injury. We don't know the severity. Charlie Comben off with an ankle injury. The reports...
Poor old Charlie. He looked like he was, running away from the ICU ward.
Yeah.
He just, every bone, every muscle looked sore as he got hobbled from fullback to the wing to get to the interchange.
But the distressing news from our listeners is that apparently he was in tears on the bench, which tells me it's a serious injury, which is just terrible because we saw the development last year. Yes, he didn't have a great game, but he's an important part of our side, and especially with Lowe going down, if that's two key defenders down, that spells big trouble.
Now we're back to Core being the experienced tall
Back shoulder.
back shoulder Core. I thought Griff was really good. I had him in my votes. Going off probably hurt him, but I thought he was our best defender.
Yeah, I thought Core did some okay things. I thought he did
Yeah.
fairly well on Norton. Jacko pretty solid as usual. But yeah, to go back to another negative, that was probably the worst game I've seen Harry Sheasel play. And he had 31, and he was still good. But he was just uncharacteristically fumbly.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the kitchen, isn't it? It's hot where he is, but he was just so used to that not worrying him. He's the fridge in the kitchen. He's a cool customer. But yeah, just uncharacteristically fumbly, as you said.
Yeah, I don't know if it's dewy because it's so hot in there with the roof shut. Like, I don't know, but...
He was still one of our better players, but just not at his elite A-grade level.
And we'll say to the listeners, we hold him at an incredibly high standard. So he still played a good game.
He's paying all the bills at Arden Street through his Harry tax.
Yeah, exactly. So we move on to the last quarter where it was a 7-point game heading into three-quarter time.
I thought we'd win that three-quarter time. We'd come back enough, but every time throughout the game we got back within the goal, they kicked the next two, and it was really annoying. And what happened?
18 seconds in, they kicked a goal.
Yeah,
into the
and
last quarter.
LDU got a shove in the back that, it was subtle enough that the umpire probably not going to pick it up, but it cost us. And then what happened? They get the ball to the outside. They could raffle who had the shot. And what do they do? From 50.
Yeah,
They kick it.
exactly.
Which we couldn't do all game.
And then they got the midfield ascendancy. But the thing I was really impressed with from North in that last quarter was whenever they'd bang a couple on and get it to that 20 points, they never stopped fighting to come back. Like
No.
PC kicked a hat trick in the fourth quarter. Sorry, they just didn't stop, and it would have been easy to say, we've put in a good 3-quarter performance and then get done by 40 or 50.
Yeah.
So I was impressed, even though we didn't get the win. I was impressed in our ability to fight out the game and remain in the game. Like even when that clash happened with Archer and Cleary and there was 5 minutes to go, like, it was still a chance. And that probably hurt us, that stoppage in play, because the Dogs were out on their feet, out of interchanges, and that gave them a chance to regroup and have a rest.
Okay, a long 5-minute break. They had a mini break earlier in the game when they down to about 2 rotations left when they had a blood rule. So a couple of things like that just gives them a 30-second, 40-second spell. Obviously the Archer Cleary one gave them a 5-minute spell, which is all they need. I was very impressed that we fought it right out. We could have easily dropped the head with Logue off injured. John went off at some stage in that quarter injured. Larky was off, potentially injured. But didn't PC look good coming out of the
he
forward
said, "I'll be
line?"
full forward,
And
thanks, John.
LDU lowered the eyes beautifully and just hit him in a little area of, half a bad kick, or not an elite kick, probably would have been intercepted, but laced him out. And PC took all his chances.
Yeah.
And he made something from nothing with that one on the goal line.
That was just clever. Interesting point I want to talk about. What were your thoughts on LDU's game? Because he was in and out of it, but if you look at his stats, I mean, he had 20 and kicked 2, but it wasn't the usual impact that we see from him. And whether that's that he was spending more time forward or just
had to be
not being able to get enough of it.
Had to be his forward line minutes or lack of midfield minutes, I reckon.
But the second half, he was really explosive in the midfield, but we just didn't see that. And that's when we probably needed him more in that midfield when we had that ascendancy, because he's that burst away clearance player where he goes forward out of the stoppage and we're not giving those handballs back, and then, pushing back 30 metres to have a snap around the corner that, goes 30, gets intercepted. So he's really important. I thought we didn't get enough impact from him in the first half.
Yeah, did he kick 2 goals?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty good effort when he's spending time forward, because he's never been a really goal-kicking midfielder. So playing forward, if you can get 2 goals out of him, and Harry should have kicked at least 1. There's 3 goals from your midfield, basically, resting forward.
I was shocked when he missed that.
Yeah, it was untimely and uncharacteristically Harry. Anyway, what did you think of PC and Bull? I thought good contribution. 4 goals from them, and it probably should have been 6.
Yeah, I thought,
least.
And that's the Darling effect that I was talking about earlier. I mean, I honestly can't believe some of the comments online, but people are obviously disappointed. But to say Zerha should be dropped or anything like that, I mean, he kicks straight, he kicks 4 or 5, and he wins us the game. But
I'll say this now, he kicked straight his BOG. I thought it was one of his best games for North.
it was. He had 20 disposals. He pushed up the ground, got in the chain. His field kicking was really good.
Yep.
He just couldn't kick in front of goal.
And he had that. Sorry, he had that defensive intent as well. Was back. Like it was really committed to the cause. Wasn't just playing as a selfish forward. He was really invested in chasing and tackling.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason why he got a bit of backlash online was the late one where he, cut off in front of Larky, took the mark, and then kicked it out in the full. So
yeah, the lazy kick. I don't know what happened there, because I wasn't as dirty on him taking the mark. Yeah, would rather Larky have the mark and kick the goal, but he was on his own. And he's got to make a split second decision. He knows he can mark it, so go for the ball, but kick the goal.
Yeah. So, I thought the 2 sort of third, fourth tools, I thought they both had a good impact. Like PC, that's the sort of thing you're going to get from him. Like he'll pop up and kick 3 1/4. It's a hard position to impact over 4 quarters. But, I thought, we realistically should have got probably 6 goals from them.
Yeah,
at least.
and then we wanted 4 as a minimum per match from both of those. We think that's what they've got to contribute, 4 to 5. And, we got 4.
Yeah.
So, but straight kicking, we would have got 6 or 7.
Let's get back to some positives. So, a man we haven't really spoken about a great deal, who kicked 5 goals, Nick Larkey. I mean, really good performance from him. He just doesn't miss, automatic. Had some tough shots, had some tough angles too that we sort of on his range a little bit, because we know that if it's 40 plus, it's really touch and go for him because of the way he does kick a goal. But he converted his chances. He looked good on the lead as well. And I was still disappointed that he had cramp or whatever it was, a few injury issues in the last quarter, because I think he, on lob, could have really been effective if we had some good inside 50 entries, if I can spit that out.
Yeah, he'd run lob around and beat him at the ground ball if he didn't get on the lead. So, yeah, it was disappointing. Although when he went off, that's when PC stepped up. So that's good to know for the future that PC is definitely an option.
Yeah, because we've been too one-dimensional in the past. And, I mean, yesterday the forward line looked good. Like, Zerha had his moments, should have kicked more. Darling looked good at times. PC popped up. Constanti's forward pressure was really good. And actually a bit of a... when he had the ball, he was really impressive as well. Like, he did some nice things, showed some composure. Hanson Jr. The forward line group itself looked pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. The back line's going to be the worry going forward with the
absolutely.
injuries.
Even without the injuries.
We didn't need... Yeah, but a lot of... I mean, that first quarter, good luck playing back line when they just run it up quick. Well, move the ball quickly and pretty much uncontested all the way from the back line to the forward line. I mean, you could pick the greatest back line in history, and good luck winning the ball back.
Yeah, I think you're pretty on the money there, but it's a tough one, isn't it? Because it's frustrating, but when you're going to apply no pressure up the ground and just allow teams to stream through the corridor, then, like you said, good luck defending it.
Midfielders got to learn to be defensive when they haven't got the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
And
we could have...
really defensive. Not did they zone? Or were they zoning and then their kicking was just too elite to pick their way through the zone? We've seen that in the past, haven't we? We've tried to zone and there's not enough pressure on the ball carrier, or the opposition are just too good, and maybe the zones, the next too wide. We've got to tighten up.
But that first quarter, we could have had the trio of Buckley, Taylor, and Iden from the Giants, who probably regarded as the best trio defending back then. I don't think it would have mattered a whole great deal because of the ease the ball was coming in.
Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't mind Sam Taylor at North though at the moment.
Would be good.
Right, let's get the pod a little bit more positive. We're going to roll into the Ryan Bastanak Player of the Year award. For those who are new to the pod, or this might be your first year, the Chief and I both give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 after each game. Same format as the coaches' votes. Last year's winner was Harry Sheasel, which was very fitting because obviously Basti wore 3 for North, and then the first winner was the man in number 3. So,
and for those who have been listening a long time, they should know that I get to introduce this as the most prestigious award in all of the AFL, the Basti.
I've heard Harry wasn't too mad about not getting the AA jacket because he had the Basti in his pocket. So.
Yeah, that's right. It's the most prestigious.
Right, well, you want to pump yourself up, I'll give you the New Rock.
All right, New Rock. I like it. 5 votes, Nick Larkey. I thought without his kicking 5 straight, we're out of the game early, and then that's when the head drops. That's when people think about signing for going to free agency. The world, you can easily drop your head, and he just kept us in it. He kicked long range goals, which is not normally his go, and he's solid. He competed in the air, which another thing is not his go. He competed the ball well when it was just long bomb to him. I thought he was really good. 5 straight. I don't know how many possessions he had overall.
Yeah, I'll get that up in a minute, but that's a great point. Like we've seen in the past few years that teams have taken far too many intercept marks, and I think they might have taken 1 yesterday, the Bulldogs in our forward 50. So, yes, that's also sort of having some help with Darling.
Darling gets a tick for that
in
as
there
well.
as well. But, yeah, a really impressive game from him. Who have you got with the 4 votes?
4, I've gone Jai. I thought early on he started middle and he was good. His Jai steps back. He did at least 2 or 3 of those. I'm not as hard on his ball use as you from my memory of the game. I only watched it once. I really wanted to watch it again. But then I had to try and... I didn't want to pull all my hair out. Watching it on replay might have been worse. But I thought he was good. He had one little quiet patch, but he ended up with 30 plus disposals, and yeah, really good Jai. So I gave him the 4. Moving right along to the 3, I gave to your man, the Bull. I thought it was probably his best game. If he kicks 4-1 instead of 1-4, he gets the 5, and it's his best game probably ever for North.
Oh, I don't know. King of Marvel game.
Yeah, but
6.
Yeah, it'd be in the top. He'd be on the podium. Yeah, I thought he was really good. His defensive intent was there. His ball use around the ground was there. He obviously gets up high. That's another tick to Jack Darling. Just a flow on the butterfly effect of having him in the forward line.
10 marks for Zerhal just buddy in. I reckon that's probably career high.
Yeah, that's probably was his best game. But it's not all about goals, although a couple of extra goals might have been handy.
Yeah.
2 to X, just solid. Up against a quality ruckman in English. That's 3 times in a row he's owned him. 51 hit-outs.
51 hit-outs, yeah.
We got first hands on the in tight in the contest because of him. He changed his game from the grab and kick or grab and handball to some really good taps. He dropped a mark we thought he should have taken in the last quarter, and then he went on to take 2 contested marks in the last quarter. To at least one was against English. So I thought that was good. He was good. Probably a bit low for me, but I think the others were shaded him. And one could have gone to Shees, could have gone to Griff. I had him in the votes. He just not being there in the last quarter probably hurt him. PC for his last quarter, thought could have got a vote. He just kept us right in it. But I've settled on Powell, and he had some bad ball use, but he had a lot of the pill, and we've got to remember he's only 22-ish, maybe 23. It's time for him to rise and clean that up, but it's the first game of the year, and over the course of round one games, a lot of players are fumbly. They're not quite at the standard they're going to get to, so I've given him the one.
Yeah, it's worth the big tick for me with Tommy Powell. We know his ball-winning capabilities. Just looking at his stats here, he had 27 yesterday, but 8 tackles.
Yep.
That's something that he started to introduce into his game last year, and a big tick for him. Right, I'll fire through mine now. So I've given 5 votes to Nick Larkey as well. It's a great game from him, kept us in it. Just the spearhead forward, and most importantly, competed airily as well, and didn't get outmarked. The 4 votes I've given to Tristan Sherry. I found after Larkey, it was really hard to sort of order them.
Yep.
But the key with Big X is he was the key for our midfield ascendancy. Just looking at the hitouts, he had 51, English had 25. So he's doubled English's hitouts. His tackling pressure was there with the 7 tackles. Not as many clearances as usual. Probably didn't have his usual impact around the ground, but I thought he was important and didn't have any clangers with the ball. 3 votes I've given to Cam Zerha, as you did as well. His ability to hit up and get in the chain, his field kicking was tremendous. The only thing that let him down was his set shot goal kicking, unfortunately. The 2 votes I have given to Jai Simpkin. Thought he was important. His sidestep, great finish in front of goal. Just his ball use when he's clear, just needs to tidy that up, and he'll be back to his Sid Barker best. Just it's just they stand out, don't they? Like he's taking a bounce and then he kicks it along the ground. So I'm with you. Like he had 30, but it's those 2 or 3 that stand out. The poor use than when he does use it well, we tend to forget that. And then the 1 vote could have gone to a lot of people, like you mentioned, like there's Sheasel, there's Tommy Powell, Constanti, Darling, Griffin. But I want to reward someone who I thought was really good yesterday. So I've given the 1 vote to Robbie Hanson Jr. I thought his ability to get in the chain, use his left foot, and more importantly, when he got that ball at half forward, he lowered his eyes and didn't go the bomb kick. He hit up the Zerhas, the Darlings, the Constantis, those sort of players. So coming of age game for him, I thought Robbie Hanson. We saw some signs at the back half of last year, but really impressed with his game and thought he deserved a vote.
Yep, well done. All right, well, that's it.
Touching on the watch list, which is a listener favourite segment, we're going to wait a week. Well, it's your segment, so I'll pass it
Well, we're not carrying over from last year because it's a new year. And, yeah, we're going to give the players a couple. We're not going to start torching players after 1 week. So we're just going to hold fire. We're noting what's happening, but we're not probably officially start to probably round 3 or 4. Unless someone has a real howler. We get angry again. But looking to another award we've got to talk about, the new one. It's a Shimboner Award, which this goes to a brave act, a Shimboner act, a never give up act. So there's probably a couple I'm thinking of. There's Will Phil, we've already mentioned, one on 3 or 4 out in the wing, just halved the contest, got it out of bounds. Didn't give up. Would have been easy just to half effort and run round, let them just triangle the ball and then come forward back. But no, he did well. I think you've got one. I won't take your thunder, but my nomination for this week is the Glenn Archer, who may as well have been Glenn Archer because it was Jacko Archer, and that last contest he came flying, and we were watching it together, and I just thought something's going to happen here because he came off his man running at 100 miles an hour, did not flinch, and unfortunately it's going to be a controversial bloody, he's going to go to match review, but he's contesting the ball.
I don't know how he didn't get a free kick.
Oh, he got his legs taken out, but then the other bloke got absolutely knocked out, and our best wishes go to him and his family because it was horrendous, but to me that's just football. It's a 360-degree game, and if it was one of our boys, I'd say the same.
He shouldn't have gone to ground, though, the Dogs player, Cleary.
No, he shouldn't.
But I hope he's all right.
You could argue the other way. You're allowed to go to ground to pick the ball up. But, the free kick could have easily gone to Arts, because I thought when it happened, Arts broken his leg, in 600 places, because he just flew in, and I don't think there's many players in the AFL who would have come as hard as him.
No.
And not taken a backward step. And knowing there was going to be massive body, and if they all kept their feet, there was going to be massive body contact. So he gets my nomination.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think I was going to put Constanti in there for his forward efforts and Finn O'Sullivan for going back, but I think Archer.
Well, I don't think you'll see better than that for
No.
the year. Like it's going to be hard to beat. It's clubhouse leader. Obviously, round one it has to be, but it's going to be very hard to beat.
Right. Before we get to our list of questions, quick thoughts on who, if Combat and Logue don't get up, who comes in? I'm thinking Will Dawson.
Shotgun.
And I've read online people want him and Whitlock. That's too inexperienced. I think you've got to bring in either one of them, and I'd go Shotgun, and then probably a Callan Dawson or Toby Pink come in as well.
Well, I'm looking. We play the D's, and they play today, obviously. So if they go in with a similar lineup, who are the forwards? Van Rooyen,
Yep, Jefferson.
We only need 2 key backs.
Well, then because they play.
That's if Jacko's right to play, and he can stitch up Fritsch again.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. They play Fritsch as the third tall, so.
Yeah, so we probably only need 2 195-ish. Well, Van Rooyen's only about 195. Jefferson's maybe a centimetre or similar. So we don't need. Yeah, we'd just bring one in, I think, and I'd bring Shotgun Dawson over Callan.
Yeah.
I think let's just look at the future. I mean, I know it's only round 2 and we're desperate for a win, but I think he's better.
Yeah, and much more upside too, and he's put on 16 kegs.
Yeah.
The big boy.
Yeah, give him a go, and you've got the option of if you had to throw him forward, like if let's hope it doesn't happen, but if Sylv doesn't get up, you can throw him forward or gets injured. And as a long get out kick, which we seem to use a bit too much instead of lowering the eyes.
Yes. Right, we'll get into some listener questions. We'll start with Cam McAllister, who says, are Clarko's methods and game plan outdated? If Mitchell had been appointed instead of Clarko, would North be in a better position? And then he's put a side note here, which I found very funny. He said, Mulder and Scully wouldn't be able to figure out how Elmac has played 200 AFL games.
That's harsh.
Yeah, it is harsh, but it's
funny.
Made me laugh.
Well, it's funny. That's why I laughed.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like I think it's too early to tell. This is the key year for Clarko, isn't it? Like the lists where he's at, where we want it. The young players are coming through. We've brought in the experience. We've got the talent, and that's why we're so big on that we need to start seeing results. And that's why I think with the build-up of pre-season that we were so disappointed that we weren't able to get the win, and adding to that, the midfield domination. Like the plans all worked. It was just the last kick. So time will tell. I mean, Mitchell's obviously doing a great job with Hawthorn, but yeah, the lists aren't the same at the present time.
Well, Clarko adapted in game, didn't he? Because he had to get out to him at quarter time and say, stop letting him just use the ball up through the corridor, and he shut that down. So that's a tick to Clarko and the players for following whatever new structures, plans he put in. So, and Clarko, if you watch his presser, I only watched it just before this pod, and he was reasonably positive. Like, in game, noted what you noted, that if you take the first quarter out, we win the next 3. So, yeah, I'm not. I've got a watch on Clarko, but I think we're right. I think we're right with Clarko.
Yeah, and
we're all impatient. That's the problem. We're so impatient that we've got to be careful we don't just point the finger at Luke McDonald, Alistair Clarkson, whoever else. Jai Simpkin because he misses 2 kicks.
Yeah.
We've just got to be careful because if we're Bulldogs, if we're doing a Bulldogs report, we'd find plenty of mistakes they make.
Oh, of course.
So it's an imperfect game. There's one ball and you've got 36 players desperate to get hold of it.
Do you know my watch on Clarko? I've had enough of hearing about. We did this at Hawthorn.
Yeah.
It's time to put that away.
Park Hawthorn. We know you won 4 at Hawthorn. We know you rebuilt them. Don't remind us every pre-match.
And like I understand that that's the trajectory we're following, but this is the third year. I think it's time to
Yep.
put more of an emphasis on us and what we're doing than hearing about what he's done at Hawthorn and what Viney did at Melbourne.
Yeah.
Because I understand why he's saying it, but we've heard it for 2 years. Like,
Yeah, we know.
We're aware. The media's aware. Let's move on. David O'Callaghan, Sheasel and McKercher, poor disposal. Are we expecting too much of young players? I don't think so. I think we've seen them do it week in, week out. Yesterday, hot ball, hot conditions, lots of fumbles. It was uncharacteristic for both of them.
Yep.
And I don't think they were awful by foot. I think that they just have such a high standard that they play by that they were a bit under. I thought Colby did some good things when he got a bit of space, but I don't know, he just looks a bit lost playing this sort of wing half forward role.
Yeah, he's not going to have the same opportunity to get the ball as playing half back as a user, because one, the ball tends to live in our half back line, and he's the one we try and get it to use it. So he's not going to have the same high impact possessions. And we saw Harry go and sort of keep the possessions, but he went to centre bounce midfield, whereas Colby's out on the wing. So you don't get as much on the wing. I mean, the top wingers in the league are only getting about 20 disposals. So you can't expect him to get 30 on a wing. He had two bad moments. One we've already discussed, and the other, I think he had a lot of run, maybe 3 bounces, and then shinned the ball, which is unlike him. So other than that, I thought he was solid.
We couldn't really tell if it was touched or not. Because
No, we couldn't. I think the commentator said he just shinned it, but
okay.
it may have been smothered. I mean, they don't know. They're sitting in level 2 air conditioning, fighting over who's getting the meat pies at half time up in the commentary box. And if BT's there, you're not getting any.
No.
But BT has 7 have Saturday off.
Yeah.
Imagine paying billions of dollars for
Don't
football
start me there.
and not having any footy on 7 on the main carrier.
Do not start me. Right, Adam Monaloo. I like this. I see plenty of green shoots. Stick at it, lads. There we go. There's some
Yeah, I like it,
positivity, which
positive.
is... and this is the problem with social media. Like, we're all frustrated after the game, and everyone's looking to output that emotion, and it gets quite negative. So I'm happy to see a couple of positives there.
I've got a positive. This time last year, would have been positive with that result.
Yeah.
Remember the GWS game where they kicked badly and we lost by 39? We were reasonably positive.
I'll tell you what, you listen to that pod back, we might have won.
Yeah.
We're up and about.
But now expectations have risen, so we're expecting to win. And what did we lose by? 16 or
16
something?
points, yeah.
So that's a massive positive compared to where we were 12 months ago. But, we did expect to win because the Doggies had some star players out and we're disappointed. But it's a better result than this time last year.
Yeah. We've had a couple of questions about our thoughts on Will Phillips getting subbed out. What were your...
I was surprised. I thought he was doing his role. You don't know what his direct matchup was, so whether he was being torched defensively. I mean, I suppose you're going to bring the sub on at some stage, but it's not like for like. I mean, Tucker's not going into the midfield. We've already had Luke McDonald, who was struggling down back. What about Luke's reaction when there's a free kick?
I'm sick of him saying sorry, putting his hands on his head.
I think he was unlucky with that 50 because watching it live, it looked like it may have been touched. And it's not that he came in through him to ground, but I mean, I suppose that is the letter of the law. So, what's he say? What's your man Matt Hill say? Come shopping with me.
Yeah.
Something stupid thing.
I don't know what he was saying.
Let's walk 50 metres to the goal square. I was a bit disappointed no one went still on the mark.
That's poor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's poor. Just that's not good body language. Someone busts their gut and get there. Yeah. And Luke, it should be you instead of putting your hands in your face. You've given it away. You make him at least kick over your head.
Norton should have just dribbled it over the line.
Well, he should have played on. Just burnt 30 seconds while someone had to run and chase him because they were in front at that stage. It was only the third quarter though, so I suppose it's a bit early to start time wasting.
He could have got his stats up, giving himself a few handballs to himself, get a few cheekies.
Bounces, 8 bounces in the forward 50.
Got a message here. This sort of leads onto it from Tristan saying, "Who were your bottom 4 players?"
X.
No.
Oh, okay. I got a bit excited there. I thought the X had called in.
Oh well, soon. But he was asking who our bottom 4 players were, and if it was X that sent in, it's not you. So I think the two big ones that come to a lot of people's minds are Comben and McDonald.
Yeah.
After that, it's a bit tough because it was pretty even performance. Like everyone was sort of equally fumbly and all that. So,
Probably Tucker, but he did come on as a sub.
yeah, I mean it's always hard to judge
Hard
a
as a
sub.
sub, and he's not going to be that game breaker. He's going to come on and play a role. He's a role player, so that's why it was I'd have rather he deserved to be in the team, I suppose, from his West Coast game. But if they're not going to play him in the role he played there, why play him? I'd rather Elvis come on.
Even Dylan Stevens, I know he's a polarising character, but he's got that tank that he can just run.
Yeah.
Whereas Tucker just, he's a good, honest player, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he's your old-fashioned battler.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to come on and change the game for you. So I agree. Like if they're going to play him, they've got to start him. He can't be the sub.
Yeah, I agree. And it'll be interesting what they do with Elmac, because Elmac had when that kick he kicked to Harry, that was another, I ripped my hair out there. It was, for those who don't remember, I'll try and visualise it. He was half back, no pressure. Harry led to the wing and he kicked it out of bounds. Kicked it in front of Harry, but way too far in front. Even the magic of Harry couldn't reel it in. It was just a good offensive chance for us that went waste, and we can't do that.
No.
Whether he wasn't Robinson Crusoe. There were plenty of players who had that, but that's one that sticks in mind. But there was another time when he was so brave. So Luke, I can't remember exactly what it was, but we both looked at each other and said that was a really good effort from Luke. So he does bring that for you. But it'll be interesting what they do with him because I'm worried for him.
Yeah. Mitch Lord asked us to rank the recruits from 1 to 4, and then he's also put in here that he backs my comment about Darcy being the number one player if there was an open draft. The bloke is a freak. So I'd probably go Darling, Constanti, Parker, Daniel, I reckon. If I was to rank the 4 recruits from other sides.
Oh, you're not counting Force?
No, the players that have come in from another team.
Okay.
Any
I think Darling just played his role well. Who was your second?
Constanti. I had Constanti over Parker. They're pretty close though. They could go either way.
And then Daniel last.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because he probably had the best pre-season.
did.
Darling had a good pre-season too.
Lots of thanks again to everyone for sending your questions in. Lots of comments about lacking polish and being average by foot. Just a quick one here. Nathan's put some good points, but he's put need to send the ultimate message to Comben and put him on notice for the CCC.
No, well the CCC is not about skill, so that's why Harry's not in it.
No, I think some of his efforts were being challenged.
Oh, okay. Well, so the reason Chong got in was he's going back with a flight, body on the line, getting absolutely smashed a couple of times last year. And also the game at Boot Park where he showed absolute leadership and hatred of getting beaten and having goals kicked, where he brought the boys in and absolutely ripped them all. And one of those boys was Luke. It should be him giving that speech, but it was Charlie. So it's all about effort, but I didn't see a lack of effort from him. But if he was live at the game, maybe he saw more than I did.
Yeah. I just hope he's all right because he's so important to our side, no matter where he's playing. Andrew makes a good point that there's a bit of an overreaction to the loss by our fans. I agree, but it doesn't help that there's so much expectation. We thought we're going to go in and give it a good shake, and we just wanted to win, and we're in that position, so that's a positive. But it's also, we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. So
yeah.
I think that's a good point. Just tend to stay off social media at certain times if it gets too negative.
If we'd have done the pod straight after the game, we've had time. Well, I was going to say sleep, but we didn't get a lot of sleep. But we had time to calm, I suppose. And if you're on social media straight after the game, you still got the red mist.
Yeah, exactly. So
understand that. I thought a big positive was, a few times they got out to good leads and we were able to fight back every time. So the boys kept trying. I mean, what was it, 30 plus under the lid? It would have been terrible non-football. It's a winter sport, football. It wasn't winter conditions. They're playing in the sauna.
They were. Our last question, we're going to go to a voice message from our man Stoney.
Yep.
Baz, Big Chief, Jason Stone here. I've read all the hysteria this morning and digested what happened last night. And as I said last week, we're on a hiding to nothing, whatever happened this week. And I know we're expected to win, and I know you guys also thought that a pass mark was a win. But I reckon you guys would have diverted on that now too after what happened last night. You know what, let's just step aside for a second and let's not overanalyse last night. If you were a neutral supporter and you watched that game last night, you would have said they're two good sides. Forget that we haven't won a game for a long time and the doggies had people out. That was quality footy last night. And yep, we made some mistakes. We didn't kick straight. We probably should have won the game. But I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that was a fail. I thought we did pretty well. And I think the Dogs are probably better than most people expect. Chat soon, guys.
Yeah, thanks for sending that in, Stoney. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they've got incredible depth, the Dogs, and they still had a lot of A-grade talent out there. But I suppose the frustrating thing for North supporters is we were in positions multiple times to win the game, and we had that ascendancy in the midfield. And yet again, we just shoot ourselves in the foot and cost ourselves the game with poor inside 50 kicking and poor kicking for goal. So... yes, we played an exciting brand and we kicked 97 points, which would be our highest in a long time, I reckon. And we kicked 87 points after quarter time, which I can't remember us ever doing, to be honest.
No, not for a long time.
So the signs are there. I mean, it was an improvement, but yeah, you just want that killer instinct when you're in that game. And like I was the same as you, that I thought at 3/4 time we were going to run over the top and win the game. And then that 3 minutes... to start the last quarter was just deplorable with some of the efforts. So, really frustrating.
And we just had to fight back. Didn't we? We always, every time we got close, we had to fight back. But I like his comment. There were a lot more positives than negatives.
But the negatives will be highlighted.
Yeah, they will, because the Bulldogs had some key players out and we thought it was a very winnable game. Now, if it was full strength versus full strength teams, we wouldn't have expected to win.
No.
But I think we've both got the Bullies in the 8.
I don't know.
Don't you? I do. I'm pretty sure I did. Anyway. So good common sense comments there from Stoney.
Yes. Right, before we wrap up, we're going to go to a bit of Media Street. Right, so I think you flagged on the pod last week that the extension of coaches was happening as to combat Tasmania coming in. And then I was listening to SEN during the week. The day after, old Timmy must be tuning into the pod, Timmy Watson, because he rolled with the same thing.
Wow. Well, it surprises me that Timmy listens, being an Essendon legend.
And do you know what he said? Sorry to butt in, but he actually said it came to me last night, which is what caught my eye when he said that, because I thought he's tuning in.
He's tuning into the pod as he has his nightcap.
He must have been
listening to the Shinbo in his pod, and then thought, I'll run with that on SEN and take it as mine, because he doesn't come up with a lot of original stuff, Tim.
No, he doesn't. And speaking of SEN, obviously it's booming at the moment, the Kane Corns Walk and Talk. So I did an edition Saturday morning, and the man himself, Big Volcano, he's even liked it on Twitter. I reckon he's coming along.
He liked it.
Yeah, I reckon he's
he
coming
liked
along.
the work of the Bazza.
He's getting on the boners.
Yeah.
Big Kano. So, but I did notice some comments this morning you and I watched from Damien Barrett, and he'd have to be the number one wanker in sports broadcasting.
He's calling for Clarko's head.
They're ridiculous.
Because of the system.
So-
He hasn't taught them any defensive systems.
Load of crap. So, Sammy McClure, no doubt you're listening because we pot you all the time, but you're still in number 2, mate. It's Damien Barrett is the number 1 flog in footy media.
And I did notice that Rory Sloane put him back in his place, said, what are they meant to do? They've got stability with the coaches and everything, and they're meant to go through another coach. And Damo sort of took it back in his chair real quick.
He
did. We know Sloaney likes the hard ball. Well, Damien's more, you're very much an outside operator.
He's hiding in the sheds.
Yes.
Won't play. But that's about us. Hopefully we provided a little bit of analysis and a bit of answers. We're all frustrated, but at least we're not coming on after a 10-goal loss. I mean, we had chances to win. We put ourselves in that position, and that's a big takeaway, is that our best footy is good enough. We've just got to clean up our entries inside 50 and our goal kicking.
Yeah, a couple of mistakes, some defensive running from the mids. They need to clean up that. But all in all, disappointing, but also some good signs.
Yeah, and the scoring shots were just about even as well. So we had one less, but we also kicked some out in the fulls. So we're creating opportunities.
I would have liked Cam to kick that last goal to get us over 100, because that's a stat they like throwing at the poorer teams. They haven't kicked 100 points in 25 matches or something, so that just would have eased that.
But there's a watch on our leaky back line, because I think the first 10 games last year we conceded 120 plus.
Yeah, I'm not blaming the back six.
Well, no, but some of it was, but I agree that not all of it, particularly in that first quarter when you don't defend up the ground, it's impossible to stop. But that's just about us. We will be back to preview next week's clash against the D's Sunday afternoon later in the week, and talk about team changes, matchups, and it's going to be a big one for our man X as he goes up against arch rival Big Maxi Gorn, who they play today against the Giants.
Yes, so it'll be interesting to see how they go, because I reckon the Giants will give them a bit of a hiding.
Well, you have to tell me, because I'm watching the F1. I'm not watching that.
And very disappointing from the Prancing Horse. Well, the fourth row.
Yeah, terrible.
That's terrible. Anyway, it's meant to rain, so it might be an interesting Grand Prix. And Oscar and Lando on the front row with Max right behind him. It could be a very interesting opening lap.
Early prediction, I reckon Max is going straight up the back of Lando. He's going to take him out. He's not going to break.
No.
But thanks again for listening. Thanks for all your support. Can you please follow whatever listening platform you're on? Make sure you cross our socials. Voice messages are going to be a constant throughout the year. So for preview pods or review pods, send them in. ShinbonersPodcast@gmail.com is your place to go. Once again, thanks for all your support. Until next time.
Calm the Kangas.
See you soon. Go Roos!
Good old North Melbourne, the champions you'll agree. North Melbourne is the team that plays to win for you and me.